After the failure of the series in the last part of the game,
DICE Studio announced that the official reveal of a new Battlefield game will take place on the
24th
this month. Leaks suggest that an open beta version might be available after the event as part of the company's efforts to bring the game back to life after its major setback with Battlefield 2042. The leaks also hint at the return of classic game modes like Conquest, Rush, and Breakthrough, along with the comeback of a single-player campaign after its notable absence in the previous game. It was also said that this new Battlefield game is the most expensive in the series' history, with a budget reaching $500 million. Honestly, I don't believe that for a second. They're even aiming for over 100 million players. They also claim the game will run at 120 FPS on PlayStation. The latest news suggests that there will be a variety of map sizes. There will be very large maps, which was one of the issues in the previous game because most matches were filled with bots, and it took forever to move from one point to another. I hope there will be solutions this time to make the gameplay more exciting. There will also be medium-sized maps, which are my personal favorite, especially those set among buildings instead of wide-open parks where we just run around aimlessly. Sure, those maps encouraged campers, but they were still fun. There will also be small maps, which shows that the company is finally starting to understand that not all players like the same kind of maps and that variety is key. Another point is that the game will put more emphasis on individual player skills. Nowadays, most shooters aren't just about pulling the trigger, but also about the player's skill in movement and quick decision-making. It's said this will be achieved through improved aiming mechanics, dynamic movement systems, and designing more complex environments that encourage tactical thinking. I really hope this is true because, after a while, games get repetitive and players end up leaving. But if they focus on these aspects, there will always be something fresh to keep us engaged and excited to play. Another improvement is the return of the specialist system, but with better balance. Yes, it was in the previous game, but this time the idea is to rework it so that the focus is on teamwork and fairness. A fourth major feature is a realistic destruction system with unprecedented detail, where destruction reacts more accurately based on the weapon type and the material of the surface. It will also allow new tactics, such as strategic destruction, to create new paths or defensive cover. The fifth improvement is enhancing vehicle mechanics by making driving easier and more enjoyable while maintaining the realistic feel of large-scale warfare that includes jets, tanks, and warships, something that was almost missing in the previous game. And perhaps the most important part is the return of a strong single-player campaign. I hope the game goes back to its roots like Battlefield 3 and 4 and doesn't repeat the mistakes of Battlefield 5. I really hope this can happen and that we can return to the golden days once again. From Battlefield 2 through Bad Company 2, Battlefield 3, and Battlefield 4, the series was absolutely on fire. Each release felt carefully crafted. You had an engaging single-player campaign to set the mood. But the real magic was multiplayer, those dynamic, unpredictable battles. Terrain, weather, and even momentary tactics all played a role. Destruction wasn't just for show. It truly changed the way battles unfolded. Things started to change after that golden era. It felt like EA took advantage of how much we loved Battlefield. They realized no one else was doing the kind of large-scale battles we expected. So rather than innovating, it started to feel like they assumed fans would stick around anyway. Each new release seemed to drop more features, slowly turning down the volume on what made Battlefield special. Large-scale battles got scaled down. Content at launch felt lighter, and it seemed like, bit by bit, the Battlefield formula was being watered down. Meanwhile, other shooters were innovating and improving, but Battlefield seemed to be coasting on its reputation. Take Battlefield 5 as a prime example. When it launched, it just felt thin and undercooked. The World War II War Stories campaign was interesting, but it lacked the excitement and polish we had hoped for.
Multiplayer was there, but the content at launch was surprisingly sparse. Classic modes like Rush were missing at first, and many fans had to wait months before they were added back in. Some of the new features they touted, like building fortifications or the revamped progression system, didn't really shine at launch. By the time things improved, it felt like the franchise was moving away from us instead of growing. By the end of 2020, many players had already slowly checked out as EA started shifting focus to the next game. Then came Battlefield 2042, which was supposed to be a triumphant return to all-out war. The trailers looked stunning. Huge maps, crazy weather events, and hundreds of players. But on release day, the reality was a letdown. Only 7 small maps were available at launch, and many classic modes were missing entirely. Even worse, there was no solo or co-op campaign at all, something players always expect in a Battlefield launch. The multiplayer felt unfinished. Weapons would bounce off walls, characters would float away into the sky, and objectives would sometimes just disappear. It was like the game wasn't even ready to meet us on the battlefield. The game was riddled with bugs and missing features, and playing it felt more like testing a beta than a polished release. Even events like tornadoes or robot dogs that sounded cool in trailers felt tacked on and superficial. For many, Battlefield 2042 felt like a beta test rather than a polished release. So what really hurt the series? I think a few big mistakes. First, communication was terrible. The developers and execs started talking down to fans instead of listening. Remember when a DICE VP brushed off players upset about historical accuracy in Battlefield 5, essentially saying, if you don't like it, don't buy it? Or when he even called fans ignorant or dismissed their concerns? Stuff like that just burned trust. It made players feel disrespected. Then there were the launch issues. Battlefield 5 shipped missing major maps and modes, and Battlefield 2042 was riddled with bugs and missing features. The game felt unfinished. EA's support shifted quickly from one game to the next, leaving Battlefield 5 half-finished and Battlefield 2042 broken. The pattern was a hyped launch followed by disappointment, and that cycle killed trust. Now, a new Battlefield is on the horizon. With shiny trailers and big promises, the big question is, should we get excited or stay skeptical? Personally, I'm in two minds. Those trailers look breathtaking, and the prospect of new massive battles is thrilling. But after what we've seen, I'm keeping my expectations in check. But really, what do you think? Is Battlefield truly dead? Or can it rise from the ashes? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel and hit that notification bell so you don't miss future content. Thanks for watching.